Hola chicos, hoy es viernes, am, 17 de abril y estoy aquí en casa para hablarles acerca de el objeto directo, el objeto indirecto y double object pronouns en una oración, in a one sentence. Again, double object pronouns. We're going to study double object pronouns in a sentence. So if you have your book or your textbook, open your textbook or your book to first double object pronouns. It's going to be on page 296, 296. But first I'm going to review direct object pronouns so we understand exactly what we're doing. So let's look at the regular direct object pronouns in a sentence. Direct object pronouns. Okay, here it is. So look at it. Direct and indirect objects. First, let's look at direct object pronoun. Silvia compró la blusa. If you remember back in chapter 7, we were still in classroom. We learned the direct object. And the direct object it's not in page 292. It was back in page 234. 234, chapter 7. Silvia compró la blusa. In every sentence, you have the subject and you have the verb. Okay, now the subject can be a noun, and nouns can be a person, name, or name of the city, a person, or a thing. Silvia, in this case, is subject. Silvia is the subject. Compró la blusa. You see, Silvia is your subject. Compró is your verb. And then blusa, your direct object. Now, direct object always is, direct object is always receiving the action of the verb. Again, the subject, Silvia, the subject always performs the action. But the direct object, blusa, in this case, receives the action of the verb. Okay? Silvia compró la blusa. Now, in a longer sentence, today we're learning direct and indirect object, both of them in the same sentence. Manny is the subject. Manny le compró un boleto a su esposa. Manny le compró un boleto a su esposa. Now, boleto, it's a ticket, okay? But in other places, like in Spain, they call it pasaje. Pasaje instead of boleto. So, compró is the verb, but esposa is the indirect object. Now, again, the subject performs the action, the direct object receives the action of the verb. In this case, compró, the direct object here is something different than blusa, right? But for whom is this action performed will be the indirect object. In this case, indirect object is esposa. Manny's esposa, okay? Manny's wife, esposa. That's for whom. Now, the indirect object we're going to learn today that can be replaced by a pronoun, okay? In Spanish, we use pronouns. I know English doesn't always use pronouns, especially with indirect object. We don't have pronouns for indirect object in English, but in Spanish, we always have to replace the indirect object with a pronoun. And so in this case, esposa is the third person. It's not yo, it's not tú, it's ella. And ella will be replaced with le, because le is the indirect object pronoun for esposa. And we've learned this indirect object pronouns before. Remember in chapter 1 or chapter P, when you first started learning Spanish, you learned me llamo, te llamas, se llama. But in this case, it's going to be, and then we learned in Spanish 1 also, we learned me gusta, te gusta, le gusta, me duele, te duele, le duele, la cabeza, That's what we learn in Spanish too. So today we're using indirect object pronouns again, mixed in with direct object pronouns. Okay, so the direct object again is boleto, which is ticket in English. And there's your verb, compró. Manny le compró un boleto a su esposa. Manny bought a ticket for his wife. Remember, the subject performs the action, the indirect object, well, the subject performs the action. The direct object receives the action of the verb, and the indirect object tells you for who or for whom is this action performed, for whom it is. Okay, in this case, for his wife. Manny's ticket for his wife. So again, the indirect object tells you for who or for whom the action of the verb is performed. So if I was to ask you, here's the sentence, right? If I was to ask you, did Manny buy a ticket for his wife? Yes, you're gonna say, right? You're gonna say yes. He did buy the ticket for his wife. Manny bought the ticket for his wife, right? So then you're gonna say yes, he bought it for her. That's how we would say it in English. He bought it for her. In Spanish, we would say yes, he. Here's he. You see the verb compró in the preterite tense? The ending of the verb comprar in the preterite tense tells you who. Who did it? Manny. Manny bought it. That's why the verb is conjugated to the third person, because Manny is he, él. Él compró. And there's the ending. Yes, he bought. But what? It. Lo compró. For whom? For her. Se lo compró. Okay. Okay, I came back. Sorry for the dog barking. Okay, so again, yes, he bought it for her. Lo is the direct object pronoun that replaces the direct object, and se replaces the indirect object. In this case, it's the third person, okay? And I'll show you why it's se and not le in a moment. The indirect object pronouns is me, te, le, nos, os, les. Here are the pronouns that we've learned before that replaces each indirect object. Okay, if the indirect object is me, then I will use me. If the indirect object is you, I will use te. For him or for her, I will use le. Or I will use nos, os, les. When do I use se? Okay, when you're using double object pronouns in one sentence, like in this case, double object pronouns in one sentence, we cannot have le, lo, because it doesn't work right. It doesn't sound right, le and lo, or le and la. Therefore, every time you're going to use the direct object pronoun next together with the indirect object pronoun, you're going to replace the le with se. In this case here too, we cannot say les or los or les and las together. Lo doesn't sound right. Therefore, we're replacing les with se. Okay? Again, only when you're using double object pronouns in one sentence. Now, one thing to remember is the indirect object pronoun always precedes the direct object pronoun. Who goes first is the indirect object pronoun, and they both go before the verb. These are rules that you have to make note. You have to take a note on this. You have to make a note so you don't forget it when you're conjugating. When you're doing the test, you remember indirect object pronoun always goes first, and then your direct object pronoun. Okay, let's go back to it. Lo and la, direct object pronoun, and los and las. Remember, the direct object pronoun always answers the question, what? What did Manny buy? A ticket. So we will say lo for boleto. Lo compró. If it was a blouse, like Silvia buying the blouse, then we use la, because blusa is femenino. Therefore, we're using la. Boleto is masculino, therefore we use lo. Now, in this case, if it was boletos, Manny bought us tickets. Us, Manny bought us. Then we would say Manny nos los compró. Manny nos los compró. Compró will still be conjugated the same way because it's the same person performing the action. Remember, the subject performs the action. Therefore, the verb has to be conjugated to who performed the action. Manny, so it's still conjugated to the third person, Manny, compró. And nos will be here because he bought us. If it's for us, then we will use nos. And if saying tickets, if it's for us, it's got to be several tickets. Plural, boletos. Therefore, we're using los because boleto is masculino and plural, so therefore we're using los. Manny nos los compró. I hope you make note on that. Okay, it's important. Okay, so again, the two questions, the two most important questions we always have to remember, okay, for these using the double object pronouns. We ask what when we want to find the indirect object. That's how you find the indirect object, for asking yourself what did Silvia buy? What did Manny buy? Okay, now when you find the indirect object, you ask yourself who, or for who, or for whom. That's how you find the indirect object. So you use both the direct and the indirect object pronouns in a sentence. This question here says, ¿Te dio Marcos el regalo de Cuba? Te dio. Did Marcos give you? Did Marcos give you? Word order, very different than in English. That's why it's important that from the very beginning, we learn how to place the word order in this question, okay? We don't have did or do in Spanish. We're only using Marcos. Did Marcos give you the gift from Cuba? The gift from Cuba, okay? And so you're going to answer, yes, he gave me it, or no, he did not give me it, right? Sí, yes, me lo dio. Why me? Why are we using the indirect object pronoun me? Because the question is made out to you. Did he give it to you? Then you answer, yes, he gave it to me. Okay, sí, me lo. Why is lo here? Lo is the indirect object. Lo is the direct object pronoun that replaces the direct object. Remember, direct object, what? What about what? What is the regalo? Regalo is a gift. What did he give you? A gift, okay? Sí, me lo dio anoche. Again, notice the verb, dio, is still the same verb conjugation as in the question. Why? Because it's the same subject performing the action. What changes is the direct object and indirect object to pronouns. But the verb, that's very important, guys, the verb stays conjugated to who performed the action. When you answer a question like this, you don't change the subject. The subject is still performing the action. So dio is the conjugation, and it's a irregular verb in the preterite tense. If you're getting confused, well, you got to go back and review your irregular verbs in the preterite tense. By now, you should know them. Did Marcos give you? Okay, there's a translation for you. Yes, he gave it to me last night. Yes, he gave. There says he gave. One word, one verb. He gave me it last night. It. This it is replacing what? The direct object regalo. Okay. A mí. This tells you for whom? For whom? For me. And what? Regalo. Lo replaces regalo. Me replaces to whom? Me. Okay, direct object pronouns always precede the direct object pronouns. Remember this. Indirect object pronouns always precede the direct object. So you have to know the word order. Indirect object pronoun first, then direct object pronoun, and then the verb. That's how it always goes in the sentence, okay? So le and les become se when followed by lo and los, or las and la. And I'll explain that before, right? When you have to put both pronouns next to each other and you're going to use the third person le or les, you have to replace it by se. Not ses, okay? It's not plural, it's just se. And you have to remember that. Only with the third person, okay? Le and les changes to se, and you can use it either with lo or la, depending on what the direct object is. The direct object is a thing. It could be boleto, and you use lo. Boletos, plural, you use los. Blusa, la. Blusas, las. Again, it depends on what the direct object is on the sentence. Here's an activity. Let's see how we do with the activity, okay? I want you to practice at home on your own, okay? Les venden los agentes de viajes los boletos a los turistas. That's a long sentence, right? Les venden. Notice that it starts with les here. It's an indirect object pronoun, and it's les is for the third person. Now it's not next to le los, that's why we're still leaving les. Unless it's both pronouns next to each other, we would have to change this one to se, okay? But in this case, the question, that it has a verb in between both of the pronouns, therefore we can leave les. And les tells you is, who's the subject here? Los venden los agentes de viajes de los boletos a los turistas. Ooh, we have several nouns in the sentence. So it's important again that we remember who is the subject of the sentence. Very important. Who is the subject? And we learned the subject. That's why we learned it in the very first class of Spanish 1. So here the agents are the subject. Los agentes. And it's plural. It's they, ellos, los agentes, ellos. Therefore, we're using the pronoun les, because this one is for ellos. Les venden. Look, the conjugation also tells you is ellos. Venden, present tense, yen. Vender, yen. Los agentes, that's just an article, okay? Los agentes de viajes, los boletos, los boletos. Okay, so yeah, this one is the article, and here los boletos is your direct object. Because if you ask yourself, what are they selling? Boletos. Boletos, remember, I told you means tickets. Boletos. Now, for whom or to whom? You see the a, the preposition a, it tells you to the tourist or for the tourist. A can mean to or it can mean for the tourist, okay? So, are the agents selling the tickets to the tourist or for the tourist? And you're going to say, yes, they are selling them. Yes, they are selling them. Yes. Selling. They are selling. So the first pronoun is for whom? For them. For them. Okay? For them. So the pronoun should be, for them should be les. But because we're going to use another pronoun here, we cannot have le. We're going to have to change les to se. Se. And then the direct object is going to be replaced by another pronoun here. Direct object is boletos. What? What do they sell? Boletos. Boletos plural. Therefore, the direct object pronoun should be los, because los replaces boletos. Plural masculino, plural masculino. And here it is ellos. We cannot say les los, therefore we're saying se los venden. Again, remember, first you have the indirect object pronoun, and then your direct object pronoun, and finally your verb conjugated. Okay, turistas is just reminding you that's what the indirect object pronoun. So let's go through this other one. Le compró una exploradora una guayabera cubana a su hermano. Okay, too many words, may not know what it means. Well, guayabera cubana is just a type of shirt from Cuba. Okay, Cuba. Cuban shirt. Le compró. Le, it's already tell you who's the indirect object. Le. Indirect object is the third person, singular. So that must be her, right? Le compró una exploradora. There it is, the explorer. Did the explorer buy a Cuban shirt? For who? A su hermano. For her brother. a su hermano, okay? A su tells you for whom. Remember, you always ask yourself for whom, and it will tell you indirect object pronoun. And then you ask yourself what? What did he buy? Guayabera cubana, the type of shirt. That's what he bought. And that's going to be your direct object pronoun. So, guayabera femenino, singular. Therefore, the pronoun is going to be a la, right? But we always place the indirect object pronoun here. So, for whom is it? For his brother, hermano. Hermano es masculino, singular. Therefore, the pronoun should be le. But we cannot have le lo when we put them together. Therefore, we're going to use se lo. Se la, because guayabera is femenino. Se la compró. That should be your answer. All right, so follow the rest of it. Try to do this on your own and figure it out. Okay, always find first your indirect object pronoun. That indirect object pronoun responds to the question, for whom? And then your direct object pronoun is going to respond to the question, what? What? And what receives the action of the verb, what? What did they bring? Oh, a souvenir. Recuerdo is a souvenir. For whom? For us. Therefore, you should be able to find the answers. Número 4. Les trajo una exploradora muchos regalos a sus amigos. The first pronoun is going to be indirect object. For whom? Oh, for his friends. Indirect object pronoun. Find what's the indirect object pronoun for his friends. And then the next pronoun will be what? What did it bring? What did the explorer bring? Oh, muchos regalos. There it is, your direct object. Okay? It receives the action of what did it bring? Regalos. All right. Número 5. Un explorador va a presentarte a ti su nueva guayabera. An explorer is going to present to you his new shirt, Cuban shirt. Remember I told you guayabera means Cuban shirt. Okay, so again, you have to find the indirect object pronoun that replaces for whom. For whom. Un explorador va a prestarte a ti. Notice a ti. What's a ti? For you. For you. So the answer here, the indirect object should be, if they're asking for you, how do you answer? For me. You're going to answer me because the question is made out to you. Then you're going to answer me. Okay? And then the direct object pronoun is going to be what? What about this? What is he going to lend you? Oh, his new shirt, guayabera. And therefore the pronoun here should agree with, or should be the pronoun that replaces the guayabera. Last sentence or last question, it says, did the explorer send pictures of his family or photos of his family? ¿Les envió un explorador las fotos a su familia? Did he send the pictures to his family? Okay, so their indirect object pronoun replaces the indirect object person here, and that is a su familia. That tells you for whom. For whom? For his family. Direct object pronoun replaces the direct object, which answers the question, what? What did he send? Photos. Okay? Hope you did good. Last activity is double object pronouns. Always attach, well, one more thing to learn and remember, this is on, again, this direct double object pronoun is on page 296, 296. And so when you're using direct double object pronouns, you got to remember that you can also attach them to the verb if you're gonna do a particular conjugation. For example, if you're gonna use a conjugation like present progressive or gerundio, like the ing in English, ando or yendo, you know, I'm going to buy it. Here's it, the pronoun in English. This pronoun is replacing the direct object. The direct object is ticket, so it's replaced by it, okay? And for her is replacing the indirect object. For her, that's for man is wife, right? For her. So there's always an option to place their object pronouns before the conjugated verb. Here is what it's saying. Voy a comprárselo. So if you decide to say, I'm going to buy it for her, you can make it in one word. The verb conjugated. Here's the original verb without conjugation. You attach the indirect object pronoun se, because it's for her, right? For her. And then lo, that replaces boleto. Okay, boleto masculino singular, lo masculino singular. Celo, it's attached to comprar, and you have to make a stress on this syllable. Comprárselo. Comprar has to have an accent to make a stress on that. Boy, I'm going. Here's I'm going, boy. To buy it for her. Buy it for her. All of this 4 words are in one word in Spanish, okay? Now you can also separate it. Instead of attaching it to the verb, you can put it in front. Se lo voy a comprar. Like when we did with the reflexive verbs, okay? You can put it in front of the verb on the first verb, okay? In front of the conjugated verb. You can attach it to the ing verb, or you can put it in front of the first verb, of the conjugated verb. The second verb, when you have 2 verbs next to each other, remember we only conjugate the first one. That's why voy is conjugated, okay? Voy is conjugated, but comprar is not conjugated because these are 2 verbs next to each other. So the pronouns, indirect object pronoun or direct object pronoun, can be placed in front of the conjugated verb, or you can attach it to the infinitive verb, which is the second verb. Rules that we already learned. We already learned in chapter 5. On the very first chapter in Spanish 2, we learned these rules. I hope you took note then and you can remember now how to use it, okay? Bueno, es todo. Okay, this is all I have for today. And I hope you take time to study. Remember to be successful in this class. By the last chapter, you know, chapter 7, 8, and 9 were the hardest chapters in the Spanish too. And they do need, you know, time. They need you to take time to study and review it. Read your information, understand it, and make notes. That's how you're going to be successful. If you need help, always contact me, okay? Adiós, amigos. Adiós, chicos.